So I was thinking actually we got asked to speak here the last time I was here, and it was June 2018. Cork were playing Limerick in the Munster Championship on a Saturday night. And I got a text from my friend that morning, and he said looking to meet up for a coffee. Wouldn't normally look to meet up for a coffee. Young guy, not going to give his name obviously, we'll call him Keith. Young guy, good job, girlfriend. You know, and if you follow the social media, it'd say, God, this guy's got the picture perfect life. You know, and that morning when I met him, it was clear to me it was just that, picture perfect. It was far from perfect. He came into the coffee shop, I'd say, about 15 minutes late, looked a little tearful. There was a pause in conversation. And he said, Conor, I've been going through hell for the last few months, to be honest with you. I'm not sleeping, panicking, fighting with my friends, feeling really anxious, feeling sick in my stomach. And even though I work in mental health, I sometimes forget, is that for me? No? Okay. Even though I work in mental health, sometimes I forget that, you know, everyone has mental health. Okay? And that's why I'm here today, to talk about mental health, what it is, how it can affect you, how to take care of it, and how it can affect athletes, particularly those looking to become elite players in Cork. Okay? I'm not here to talk about, you know, the technical, the tactical skills. I'm clearly not an athlete, but I work in mental health and I work with a lot of athletes who are struggling with performance. Okay? So mental health exists on a scale. It's not something that exists for those who are just ill. Everyone here has mental health, and it falls up and down this scale. Okay? So down here, it's kind of severe mental health difficulties, people with maybe depression, anxiety, and up here are people who are achieving really high. Good mood, happy, sleeping, good thoughts. And we all fall along this scale, even today. Is there anyone in the room who's always up around 10? Anyone at all who's always at 10? No? Oh, I see one hand. Will you come up after and tell me what it is you're doing, okay? Because I've never met anyone before who's at 10. So I'm going to chat to you afterwards. So mental health affects our emotional, our cognitive, and our behavior, okay? What is that? So, for example, if I'm thinking, God, I'm going to make a balls of this presentation, okay? I'm going to feel anxious, not happy. I might get nervous, I might start shaking, I might look to leave the room. But when I have those thoughts, and the thought is generally a sentence, okay? You know, I think I'm going to make a mess of this. How am I going to feel? An emotion is generally one word. Sad, happy, anxious. If I'm anxious and I'm thinking I'm going to make a failure here, I'm going to perform worse and I'm going to look to leave. But what I might do is I might say, look, I've done this before. Seem like nice people in the room, hopefully. And I know what I'm talking about. Again, hopefully. And that will bring down my anxiety and help me to perform better, hopefully, here. Okay? 1 in 4 people will suffer with mental health difficulties. So you think of all the people in the room here. 1 in 4 people will suffer with mental health difficulties at some stage in their life. So that's quite a high number. And we heard earlier from Stephen about athletes, okay? You think of all the pressures an athlete experiences, being dropped, injury, difficulty with a coach, difficulty with a player. I mean, experience so many difficulties. I have a brief video I want you to watch on some really elite players who have started talking about their mental health. I mean, 10 years ago, mental health in sport, it was seen as a weakness. Why are you talking about it? You're going to be dropped. But over the last few years, it's become more prominent. Okay, so it's a brief video.
I want to share my story so I can help.
Understand that it's okay to not be okay.
It's time to talk. It's time to change.
When I played football, that was my language. That's how I communicated. And when that was taken away from me, I just felt like I was nothing. I was no one.
You know, you got so much responsibility as an athlete to your team. You know, you got to play at a certain level, and your teammates count on you. You got the pressure from the media.
You know, when you experience the highs, and obviously you want to experience the lows, and it's coping with the lows that is the most difficult part.
When, you know, I got into my state, it hit me like a brick. Was that because I didn't tell anyone because I didn't want anyone to think differently of me?
When I was playing rugby, my feet were not planted deep, they were shallow. Anything was knocking me around and I felt like it was a balancing act. I had to fight against this, fight against this, fight against this, and hold on and survive and, you know, win a game, and it was just thank God for that, let's move on.
I suffer from depression.
Depression is with me on a daily basis. It is time for sport to accept its responsibility with this issue.
There's records, there's numbers that I'm really close to, and of course I feel pressure, but I will play, I will fight, and I will keep going on.
My thoughts of wanting to take my life, they don't define me, and they'll never define me, and they'll never win.
Struggles are going to happen in life. You're going to get punched in the mouth at some point, but understand that you can get back up, dust yourself off, and get back out there.
Everybody's going through something, and everybody, has things that you can't see, you can't touch, that they're walking around with every day.
If you're isolated, you go to the opticians. If you're isolated, you go and see someone about mental health. It'd be nice just to let it out rather than keeping it in. Because the more you keep it in, the more you explode.
I don't know why I opened up and talked about it, but I guess I was just sick and tired of just having it inside of me for 20 plus years, and I was ready to make a change. I'm glad I got through it.
Okay. So you'll see some fairly clutch players there who are talking about mental health and the pressures they experience. And I suppose this talk today is about the pathway to becoming an elite player. And I suppose you have to recognise you will come up against roadblocks and you will meet challenges and failures. And I think Stephen said it earlier, they can often define you. I mean, his pathway wasn't straight up. He had a lot of setbacks, but he overcame them. He also talked about anxiety. I meet a lot of players, a lot of people who say, oh, anxiety, I don't want to feel anxious ever again, I'm worrying a lot. And anxiety isn't necessarily a bad thing. Sometimes it can give us that adrenaline release, and if we harness it in the right way, we can perform at a better level. And also anxiety, it prevents us from danger. I mean, if we see a car coming at us in the road, we get that adrenaline rush, we get that fight or flight response, we run away. Where it goes wrong with anxiety, it's like a faulty smoke alarm. And suddenly things that actually aren't real dangers start frightening us. Oh my God, I might get dropped from the team. There's been no sign of that, but in my head, the coach didn't talk to me yesterday, he doesn't like me. Oh my God, I'm going to be in trouble. And suddenly the anxiety kicks in even when there's no real stimulus. Okay, so just knowing when the danger is real and maybe when the danger is in your head. Is it just the event that causes us to react? Again, this is back to the thinking and feeling. Worked with 2 players there over the last year and a half, and the event was the exact same for both. Both dropped off a panel. Okay, so the event up here, A, dropped off panel. We're going to skip B for the moment. What was the consequence, C? So we'll say, I'm not going to give names obviously. Player 1 became very angry. Why did this happen? So unfair. Forget that. Gave up the hurling, gave up the training. Just gave it up. Wasn't for him. Cross. This is unfair, wrong. I'm not going to show them. Forget that. Player 2 dropped off panel. Similar emotions. Very upset, very angry, confused, worried. What does everyone else think about this? But then also, maybe I wasn't giving everything. What could I do? Was I training as hard as I wanted to? Was I taking care of my nutrition? Went to the coaches for feedback, made a few changes. Okay? Same model, but B. Thoughts. That's where the impact is. Activating event, drop from panel. Player 1, this is wrong, forget that. God, they haven't a clue what they're doing. Player 2, drop from panel. This is upsetting. What can I do to adapt and change and improve myself? Maybe I wasn't playing well. Need to make changes. Worked hard. 9 months later, back on panel. Again, it's what we think. What we think affects how we feel and what we do. Generally, the rule of thumb, a thought is a sentence. What if this happens? What if that happens? Feeling, emotion, one word, sad, happy, anxious. Just try and look at what it is you're thinking from day to day. The pathway to being an elite player, this is what most people think. Maybe sitting here today, you're thinking, God, okay, I'm going to make the panel, 14s, 15s, 16s, I'll go the whole way to intercounty senior. Perfect. If I get dropped off at the 14s, 15s, failure, what's the point? No point in going on. Waste of time. I failed, not good enough. I'm weak, not good enough. Someone else is to blame. When the reality is often this, okay? Successful people know you learn more from your failures. You learn more if you're dropped, injuries, maybe you've issues with your family, with a girlfriend, boyfriend, whatever it is, you'll have setbacks, and it's about learning from that and knowing what you need to do to push along the way to get to where your goals are. All making sense so far? You wouldn't tell me if it wasn't? So I suppose the age group I was told today that this is about is adolescents, 12 to 18. And I suppose it's one of the most dramatic phases of development in a person's life. There are huge changes going on. Okay? The first one, physical changes. People develop physically at different rates. And I suppose it's really important for hurling, camogie, football, the physical development. I have a picture here of a player who was talented, skillful, but physically people had question marks. That's an underage game in football. Anyone tell me who that is? Jesse Lingard, that's it. Looks absolutely tiny next to the rest of the players. Physically, people had question marks. Coaches didn't have question marks, but other people had. Again, people develop differently physically. Cognitive changes, that's back to thinking. You know, thinking about yourself, what it is you're going to do, how are you going to challenge those worries about the panel, about the team, about the county, about the girlfriend, about the boyfriend. If you think the personal issues in your life aren't going to come onto the pitch, aren't going to come onto your training, you know, you have your head in the sand. There's a lot of pressures on this age group, outside of hurling, outside of football, outside of everything else. School, I think the pre's are on at the moment. That's another stressor for people. Exams, family. These things can all come onto the pitch. But if you're not talking about them, if you're bottling them up, if you're up in your room, scrolling through the Twitter, Facebook, whatever it is, to try and push away the negative emotions and not talking about the stress or strain, it's going to build up in your head. Same as my friend who eventually came to me and started talking. Not that I'm the right person, but he started talking. Suddenly he realized maybe these things that are going on in my head aren't as bad as what I think they are. But the key is reaching out to someone. Think of one good adult in your life. You know, is it a coach? Is it a parent? Is it a senior player? Is it an uncle? Is it an aunt? The facts are, if we can think of one good adult in your life that you can talk to in a time of difficulty, that will reduce the stress and anxiety in a player's life. Okay? Self-talk. This is back to thinking again. What are you saying to yourself in your personal life? What are you saying to yourself on the pitch? You make an error on the pitch. Are you going to carry that for the whole game? You hit the first one wide. You're going to play that over and over. What's the value of playing that over and over in your head in a game? Why? Are you going to be focused in the moment? Are you going to perform well? Or are you going to be stuck in the past thinking about the miss? Again, in your personal life, things at school, high pressure, what are you saying about yourself? I meet a lot of young people, they're running themselves down. I'm not good enough. I'm a waste of space. Really negative stuff that if someone else said it to you, you give them a punch in the face. But just be aware of what it is you're saying to yourself, because that stuff can have a serious effect. Okay? The next thing I'm going to look at is 5 ways to well-being. So these are kind of 5 simple ways that can help impact your mental health in a positive way. If you take nothing else away, just take away some of these today when you are feeling stressed, when you are feeling worried. The very first one is connect. We talked briefly about that one good adult. Again, I have another short video here about a Cork player who talked about their mental health struggles and how through talking they helped address them.
When I was younger, I kind of built up this profile that I was a tough girl, you know, and I couldn't show that soft side of things. A hard shell on the outside, but soft as putty in the middle. Even when I was at my worst time, so I first just started to talk, you know, talk to my family and my close friends, people that I could really trust. And it's just one simple thing like that that can really make the world a difference. That was the first little thing I did, was just to open up about my mental health.
Is there any questions about the connect? Anyone think that doesn't make sense? Does make sense? Do you think it's easy to connect with someone when you're feeling anxious, sad, worried? Okay, well just certainly it's the most important one. So just keep it in your mind, that one good adult. Number 2 is be active. I know the room I'm talking to, being active isn't an issue. I see people raising their hands for 6 days of activity. I mean, I'm lucky if I'm doing 1 day of activity, so I'm not going to talk to you about activity. But I suppose just be mindful of the fact if you suddenly are a person who's very active and you stop being active, or you see a friend who, you know, you're meeting regularly and suddenly they're staying at home a lot, not coming out, spending time in their room, they're not texting you. It isn't always because they don't like you or they don't want to get on with you. A lot of times your friends could be suffering, they could be in a difficult position. So when we're going through a difficult time, we kind of cut people off, we withdraw, we avoid. Just be mindful of that if you kind of see a friend who's kind of suddenly disappeared out of the group, isn't coming out, isn't talking. It isn't always because they don't like you or they're being odd. They could be suffering. Okay, just be mindful of that. Number 3 is notice. And there's a kind of a buzzword doing the rounds at the moment, mindfulness. And I'm not going to talk too much about it, but mindfulness, it's about being in the present, being in the now. As I'm talking to you, I can see a few people that are here probably thinking about the weekend, people thinking about their match today in the past. But when you're doing that, you're not in the moment, you're not here, you're not now. And that's particularly important in life. I see a lot of people with negative emotions and depression and anxiety, and they're stuck in their head. Anxiety is always future focused. You know, what if this happens? What if that happens? What if this happens? What if that happens? And when you're up here, your mood, it doesn't improve, it goes down. And people who are quite sad and quite low in themselves are generally dwelling on the past. Why? So long story short, mindfulness, simple illustration here. On the left, there's a person, mindful, thinking about bills, car, partner, children, so on. They're not taking in the scenery, they're up here constantly. On the right, I'm not saying be like a dog, but there's a dog and he's taking in the scenery, the picture in front of him. And the research shows by being in the moment, being in the present, you're going to improve your mental health. And in terms of the future players here, being in the present moment is key. I talked to you briefly about, you know, the missed shot, the missed free, whatever it is. If you are spending all your time thinking about that during the game, or else thinking about, God, what could go wrong, or who's on the sideline, what will they say about me, what will they say at my club if I get dropped? If you're on the pitch for 70 minutes, however long it is, and you're not in the present, you're not going to be performing to a level that you could be. Like, do you think Patrick Horgan is up there thinking about the missed one before, or what if it goes wide? No, he's in the moment, thinking of now. How do I do this to the best of my ability? Take it in the present moment. Okay? Anything about that anyone wants to ask? Mindfulness, or are people fairly au fait with it? Okay, I'll take that as a yes. Number 4 is keep learning, doing something new. And a lot of older players that I meet would say when they get older, they realize that a lot of the players have the same conditioning, same tactical skills, same technical skills. Like, there is always an elite level, but where they can make serious gains is the mental side of the game. Learning more about why they respond in certain ways, why they behave in certain ways. The more you're aware about yourself, the more you're going to perform to a better level. So there's a good book, again, as we talk about learning, called The Young Champion's Mind, just out last year. Very useful. Something if you want to take with you, have a look. Okay, that's an example of something. Learning can be anything. It could be a cookery course, whatever it is, a new skill in hurling, football, camogie. And just as I'm here as well, we talked about mindfulness. There's an app that's developed in DCU for children, I don't like that word, but adolescents even. And it just looks at basic mindfulness skills. So if you find that you're up in your head, again, you all have phones up in your bedroom from what I heard earlier, download this app for a look. It just helps people get out of their head, get their breathing right, focus in the moment. It's called Mindful Gnats. It's called gnats because gnats are like midgets, fly around your head, same as troublesome thoughts. Mindful Gnats. Takes you out of your head, brings you in the present moment. Have a look. Number 5 is give. So what they talk about there is about helping someone else out. You notice a teammate struggling, put the arm around them. Someone in school struggling, ask them what's going on. Take care of those around you because you don't know when down the line maybe your mental health might suffer and you'll need someone in your corner. Okay? So they're the 5 things. 1, connect, talk to someone. 2, be active, you're doing that. Maybe be aware of other people who aren't. Number 3, notice, present moment, not future, not past. 5, keep learning, and 5, give. Okay? So just before I finish up, back to failures and learning from them, the hardest times often lead to the greatest moments in your life. Okay, back to what Stephen was saying earlier. The difficult moments will often result in the best outcomes. You'll learn more about yourself when you're in trouble, when you're dropped from the panel, when you're falling out with a coach. You can learn more about the situation and why you react and what way you respond. Okay, I just want to say thank you very much for your time today. If anyone wants to talk to me after anything mental health related, I'll be here for a bit, or if someone wants to reach out afterwards, that's just my email address. Thanks guys for your time today. Okay.